Hi, and welcome back to AI news that you should know about for the week of March 13th. I'm your host, Ashley Coffey.
And I'm Daniel Hill. If you're new to the show, every week we consolidate the top AI headlines into 15 minutes or less, and we give digestible insights. This week on the show, we'll be talking about OpenAI's plans to integrate the Sora Video Generator into ChatGPT. We'll talk about Perplexity launching their new Computer for Enterprise in order to add more ability within corporations to take advantage of their tools. We'll talk about Alexa Plus's new adults-only personality option. It curses. There's no content that is inappropriate, though. Don't worry. And we'll also talk about Meta's Moltbook deal and how this is pointing to a future for Meta involving AI agents.
We'll be covering all of that on our show today, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's dive in. OpenAI reportedly plans to integrate Sora Video Generator directly into ChatGPT after the standalone app saw a 45% install drop. So I wanted to come out off the gate here to provide some context around this headline so that everyone is aware. OpenAI is having a publicity problem, a PR problem right now. We all know they're partnered with the DoD, and because of that, they're seeing a huge significant drop in users, i.e. this 45% install drop of the standalone ChatGPT app. So they're scrambling to try to figure out how do we get those people back to us now that we have made these decisions. So with the Sora Video Generator, I've used it several times. I haven't found it to be super beneficial in my line of work, but I've found people that are, let's say, hospitality caterers that like to use it to generate plating of what like a course might look like for their client, which I think is helpful. But it's interesting to see them integrate Sora into ChatGPT as a strategy. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
Yeah, I think this makes sense. You want to keep the tools that you have all in one place to make it easier for people. Obviously, any app that's text-based or image-based is going to get a lot bigger when you add a video component to it. But I understand where OpenAI is coming from, and this move does make sense strategically as people are looking to alternatives because they don't agree with OpenAI's decisions around who they choose to work with and in what fashion when it comes to the government. So I do see that as a wise move.
Absolutely. And on that note, I was thinking about this yesterday, is that we're getting to a very difficult time now where it's possible to function in the 21st century with being able to speak with your dollar and speak with your decision-making power, because so many corporations are intertwined with so many things. And if I were to stop engaging with all the companies that are doing bad things, then we probably wouldn't have a lot of extra stuff to work with. Hot take, but I applaud people for taking action and doing what's best for them. We're going to see more of this as we continue to see the wars of not just the countries, but of the AI platforms that are existing right now. So we'll stay tuned on this one. All right, next up, Perplexity launched Computer for Enterprise. This routes tasks across 20 different AI models with over 400 plus app connectors and Slack integration. This is coming out of VentureBeat, and I wanted to pick this article because this shows that Perplexity is positioning themselves to try to be that dominant platform for enterprise customers. Now, they're taking the computer AI agent into the enterprise and really taking an aim at Salesforce, Microsoft. We know Salesforce is super expensive, and these tools aren't necessarily meeting the needs of some of the customers that are using them. So as mentioned, Perplexity announced this on Wednesday that they are going to start this transition to look at enterprise. And it's interesting because it's triggering what the company describes, quote unquote, a viral moment in social media, demonstrating the agent building terminal style, replacing 6-figure marketing tool stacks in a single weekend. So they're using real life use cases here to demonstrate what problem that they're solving instead of OpenAI's approach, which is kind of the all for everyone. I thought that was really interesting of a move from Perplexity here. What are your thoughts, Daniel?
There's a couple of points in this article, and I'm actually really glad you picked this. I hadn't seen anything about Perplexity until you shared this article, I hadn't seen anything in the past week or so about this move, but it highlights that this brings approximately 20 AI models from multiple providers into one tool that has connectors to it. So if you think that Anthropic's Claude is better at some things than Gemini, or Nano Banana is better for image generation than whatever other tools. This gives you access to 20 of them. So the tool can pick which is the best one for this specific thing you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's really unique. Why should you have to subscribe to all these different AI tools and remember which one does this thing better? And then there's an update and now that one does something better. That's too much to keep track of. Let the AI track that. I think it's a really smart idea. And then second, this is a direct shot at Microsoft 365, Salesforce, OpenClaw, all these tools that companies pay for. And you need to understand how that tool works, how to get the most out of that tool. You bring in a consultant in order to do that. Could AI potentially do that instead and make whatever tools you've chosen to subscribe to more effective without needing user interaction? That's also a really interesting idea and concept. So as a direct competitor to whether you subscribe to the Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, this tool can bridge the gap for what you need to do and what you have been doing. I think it's a really, really smart move. And it bills, it seems like, based on usage, not based on license or based on a number of users. So I think that's also a really good way to look at it.
For sure, for sure. I'm personally excited to see competition in this space. I think this is a great solution for people to fix the API problem of access of information. And if you have a tool that has everything baked in, then you're ready to go and you're going to be that much further along compared to figuring out if this can connect and what if it doesn't, what's the backup plan. But lots to cover. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about how Alexa Plus gets a new adults-only personality option that curses, but won't get into NSFW content. And then we'll talk about Meta's Moltbook deal points to a future built around AI agents.
Welcome back. Continuing with our stories, Amazon has announced that Alexa is getting a new adults-only personality option. So here's the background. Amazon Alexa, it really hasn't improved that much over the past 10 years or so. It was recently integrated with a large language learning model, and it was released as Alexa Plus. But there hasn't been much news about it because, frankly, it's not that great and it's not that interesting. On Thursday, Amazon announced that it is expanding its lineup of personality styles. There are 3 existing, and this is the 4th one that they're adding, called Sassy, which is for adults only. The company explained it like this, quote, "The Sassy style is built on one premise: help first and judge always. Every answer comes wrapped in wit and a well-placed roast. It'll answer your question and it'll make you feel something about it first. Expect reality checks delivered with charm, compliments that somehow sting, and warmth you didn't see coming. Equal opportunity, irreverence, 0 apologies. Honest, sharp, and funny, that's somehow more helpful than helpful," end quote. A lot of that seems like marketing speak, but I think they are trying to make this as interesting as possible. Now, this isn't going to go to the length that we've talked about in the past with Grok and some of the inappropriate images that have been generated from Grok and so forth. Nothing in that area. Ashley, what's your take?
This is interesting. I'm glad you picked it because it goes back to our origin story of how I found the Instagram stories flash briefing on my Alexa device. Yes, this is interesting that they're shifting because they haven't really done much over the past 10 years with that initial release. I myself don't use Alexa devices anymore because I don't have the opportunity to turn off the ability to not send my transcriptions and recordings from the device to Amazon to be used for the language learning model. So I got rid of those, unfortunately, and I replaced them with Apple HomePod. So I'm all in the Apple ecosystem. I think Amazon's going to have to really ask themselves, come to your creator of choice moment of what they want to do. Do we want to be in the smart speaker market? If so, what do we want to focus on? Because I think Amazon is notorious for this, for taking an idea and running with it before they look at viability in the long run. They look for market validation first. So I feel like that's kind of catching up with them here and adding the sassy style. That's not groundbreaking to me, but cool. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, I thought about this a lot because when it comes to Amazon Alexa features, you don't really know that they exist because there's no way to communicate that to you. If you have a smart speaker that doesn't have a screen, if they add some functionality, how do you know about it? You might open up the app, you might get a push notification, you might get an email about it, but it's really easy to forget that any new functionality even exists once you know about it, let alone to just know that it exists in the first place. I think that this feature will make a splash in the news and we won't talk about it again. However, I do give points to Amazon for trying to add personality to Alexa. We saw when OpenAI upgraded ChatGPT to a new model, people preferred the personality of the old model. So personality in an LLM does matter. I do think that is a notable credit to Amazon for making this effort.
Absolutely, for sure. We'll see what happens with it.
Let's go on to our last story. Meta's Moltbook deal points to a future built around AI agents. So background, Moltbook is a social network like Reddit, but it's designed for AI agents who are using OpenClaw. If you go to their website, the tagline is where AI agents share, discuss, and upvote. Humans welcome to observe. So this is a platform for AI bots to communicate with other AI bots. The humans just sit back and watch. That's it. Why does anybody want to use that? Let's get into it. On Tuesday, Meta acquired Moltbook. Their only official comment from the Meta spokes team was a brief statement that the Moltbook team is joining Meta's Superintelligence Lab, which would, quote, open up new ways for AI agents to work with people and businesses, end quote. This seems like it's really a hire acquisition to hire people. This is not necessarily something that makes sense from an advertising perspective, which is what Meta is focused on. A network built for bots doesn't really help humans to see ads and want to click on them. But it seems like Meta really wants the talent behind the team that has created these tools. Ashley, what's your take?
I'm so glad you picked this, Daniel. And just a quick Google search on Moltbook. They started their company in January of 2026. Fascinating timing there. So we'll say that there it's made by an entrepreneur named Matt Schlicht. Sorry if I get the last name wrong. I'm against this because I think we're moving too quickly on fully autonomous AI agents making decisions on our behalf before we talk about the security implications of like malware injection. What's to prevent an AI agent going in there and injecting malware to all the other AI agents? And then you've got a real big problem on your hands. I really think we need to focus on how do we keep that human in the loop process like we discussed before so that we don't necessarily just give that full autonomy to AI for running amok. But we'll see what happens. I'm neither here nor there, but I'm glad you picked this.
My thought is that Meta clearly wants to make investments in areas because they don't know what they should invest in or build. They tried to make the metaverse. No one cared, right? So instead, they're pivoting to buy companies that they think others might care about in the future. And that to me says there's a lack of imagination. There's a lack of creativity. They have no idea where the market is going either. So that's why they want to make investments like this. But to your point, kudos to the team for building something starting in January and being bought by Meta in March. That's a fantastic timeline.
Fantastic timeline. Also, if those are listening, don't compare yourself. There's probably a lot of context behind that timeline that we don't know about, but props to them, and we'll see what Meta decides to do with it.
That is it for our AI news that you should know about this week. You can find links to everything we've discussed in the show notes and connect with us on social media. We'd love to hear what you think of the show and how we can make it better. You can find me at Daniel Hill Media on Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
And thank you, our listeners, for listening to today's episode. If you found this episode useful, please give some time to leave us a rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It only takes a few seconds, and it goes a long way in helping other people find our show so that they too can be a part of the technology conversation. If you want more tech talk, you can find me on Instagram at AshleyRCoffee89. That's AshleyRCoffeey. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM.
Thank you for listening, and come back next week for more AI news you should know about.